Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a deeply solemn but absolutely crucial piece of history. We're going to closely examine the facts, the highly complex legal battles, and the lasting legacy of a case that literally shook India and the rest of the world. I'm talking, of course, about the 2012 Delhi case.
So, right off the bat, let's dive into the core question. How exactly does one single tragic night completely rewrite a nation's laws? Throughout this explainer, we're going to impartially track the domino effect from a horrific crime right through to unprecedented national legal reforms. We'll see exactly how the justice system was forced to respond to a public outcry unlike anything we'd seen in recent memory.
All right, Part 1, The Night That Shook India, December 16, 2012. To set the facts straight, the agonizing 13 days that followed the assault began on December 16th. A 23-year-old physiotherapy intern, who the public would later fiercely defend as Nirbhaya or fearless due to laws protecting her identity, was brutally attacked and gang-raped on a moving bus in Delhi. And despite massive medical interventions at Safdarjung Hospital, her condition was so critical that by December 26th, she had to be airlifted to Mount Elizabeth Hospital in Singapore. Tragically, just a few days later on December 29th, she succumbed to her injuries. Moving to Section 2, A Nation Demands Justice, The Outcry. The harrowing details of this crime pierced a public conscience that had honestly grown a bit indifferent to routine reports of violence. The sheer scale of the public's reaction was just staggering, and it can be captured in a single number: 125. That is the exact number of tear gas shells that Delhi police had to lob at Raisina Hill. Thousands upon thousands of citizens poured into the streets, marching right up to India's power center, just seething over the failure to protect women. The volatility on the ground was unprecedented. And this localized anger, it spread like wildfire into a massive national and global movement. We saw nationwide clashes with the Rapid Action Force. Down in Kolkata, thousands held these powerful silent marches. Online, people were flipping their profile pictures to black dots in protest. The outrage even crossed oceans, with international petitions demanding action being delivered all the way in Paris. The message was loud and clear. The burden of shame had to permanently shift from the victims to the perpetrators. People were absolutely willing to go to extreme lengths to force systemic change. Just listen to this from protester Rajesh Gangwar, who actually went on a 14-day hunger strike. He said, "If my death shakes the system and gets them hanged, I am ready to die." Citizens weren't just asking, they were demanding swift justice and a total overhaul of the legal system. Which brings us to Section 3, Charges and the Trial. The legal reckoning. Under immense public pressure, the Delhi police moved incredibly fast. By January 3rd, they filed a charge sheet slapping the accused with severe offenses. We're talking murder, gang rape, unnatural offenses, destruction of evidence, attempted murder of the victim's male companion, along with dacoity and kidnapping. This was the aggressive legal foundation laid down to satisfy a public screaming for rapid justice. And that police investigation, it was relentless. Within just a matter of days, they managed to trace the bus and successfully locked up all 6 suspects, including the bus driver, Ram Singh. But then, a massive twist drops that number down to 5. In March 2013, the main accused, Ram Singh, was found dead in his Tihar jail cell. Now, while jail officials officially cited it as a suicide, his family and defense lawyers actually alleged he was murdered. Regardless of the cause, this dramatic turn of events left 5 active defendants to face the courts. Okay, Section 4, the juvenile debate, law versus outrage. Now, to really wrap our heads around why the next phase sparked such a massive national debate, we have to look at the rulebook at the time. The Juvenile Justice Act was a framework that approached any child offender under 18, not with harsh punishment, but with humane nourishment and reformative therapy. Because one of the attackers was 17 and a half, the Juvenile Justice Board determined he had to be tried separately under this specific act, entirely shielded from the adult criminal justice system, despite the horrific, brutal nature of the crime. And here is where the law completely collided with public expectation. Just look at this divide. For the exact same crime, the adult defendants were facing the death penalty by hanging. The juvenile defendant, a maximum of 3 years in a reform facility, and that even included the time he had already spent in remand. He was ultimately convicted and walked free in December 2015. You can only imagine the absolute anguish this caused the victim's family. Nirbhaya's mother pleaded, the juvenile convicts should be sentenced to death, fast-track courts be set up, and amendments to the Juvenile Justice Act be passed. The family took all that immense grief and channeled it into fiercely lobbying the Supreme Court to try the minor as an adult. It perfectly highlighted the deep, painful tension between existing laws and the public's demand for true accountability. Next up, Section 5, Appeals to the Gallows, Delay and Finality. The legal process here was a marathon of appeals. In September 2013, a fast-track court handed down the death sentence, effectively ensuring the conviction of all 4 remaining adult perpetrators. By March 2014, the Delhi High Court confirmed that verdict, but it took until May 2017 for the Supreme Court to finally uphold the penalty and reject the convicts' appeals. Finally, after the defendants exhausted every single curative and mercy petition available, the 4 adult men were executed by hanging in the early hours of March 2020. So, how did the highest court justify the ultimate penalty? Well, the Supreme Court didn't mince words. They specifically noted that the crime created a tsunami of shock and fell squarely into the judicial system's rarest of rare category. For those who might not know, that is the incredibly stringent legal threshold required in India to allow for capital punishment. And the court firmly decided this case met it unequivocally. Finally, Section 6, Legacy and Legal Reforms, moving the needle. All those protests, all that legal battling, it actually triggered a major domino effect on legislation. For starters, the Criminal Law Amendment Act of 2013 completely widened the definition of rape and shifted the legal burden of proof off the woman. That deeply debated Juvenile Justice Act, it was officially amended in 2015, finally allowing minors aged 16 to 18 to be tried as adults for heinous crimes. On top of that, the government created the Nirbhaya Fund, pouring 1,000 crore rupees specifically into women's safety schemes.
But, and this is a massive but, the reality of actually implementing these changes is frankly concerning. Despite that massive financial allocation created in the wake of the tragedy, a staggering 89% of the Nirbhaya Fund sat completely unutilized by the states. Only 11% was actually put to work for its intended safety programs.
And that specific number, 89, it actually echoes in an even darker, more sobering statistic. According to data from 2018, years after all these sweeping legal reforms, an average of 89 rapes were still being reported every single day in India. Which leaves us with one incredibly pressing question to wrap up this explainer. Given those alarming daily statistics and the deeply underutilized safety funds, has the needle truly moved enough to guarantee true safety? It's a profound, undeniable gap between legal reform on paper and actual justice in reality, a gap that society is clearly still fighting fiercely to close. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.